Hi there, it's Audrey. Welcome to my channel. This is the final day of the Summer Scrappin Series. I can't believe it's here. That means summer is over. Today my guest is Susanna Lee, who has an absolutely beautiful page. Go check out her channel today. And it is kind of fitting that I am ending this series with a page about the state fair because whenever the state fair comes around, it tells me that summer is over. It's usually the last week before Labor Day, and we start school right after Labor Day. So these are some photos from the fair from last year. I am using Maggie Holmes' Carousel collection, which I have used very, very little of, and it's perfect for a page about the fair. I'm going to make a whole bunch of accordion flowers. So I have just cut a whole bunch of paper strips, and I am literally just folding them back and forth, back and forth. And I know some people score their paper, and you can do it that way. I'm just doing it by hand, and you kind of get a rhythm going, when to do it. Although I do have to say, I did so many of these, my hands were starting to cramp up. But that's because I'm getting old. I love the way these look. I haven't made them in a long time. I'm going to cut this one in half. It was a little too big. So however long you cut your strip, that's kind of half the diameter of your circle. So the orange and pink ones there, I cut 4-inch strips, which is going to make an 8-inch circle, approximately. It's a little bit too big, and the bigger you make these rosettes or flowers or whatever you want to call them, the more paper strips you're going to need, because the way that when it bends, the outside edge of paper gets spread really thin, so it's hard to explain. I guess you just have to play with it, but you can't make them too big because the paper on the outside edge is going to kind of start to rip and tear. So the smaller you make them, the easier, in my mind, they are. So I'm not going to show you all this. I'm just going to show you how I make this one here. So I glue the ends together once I fold those all up. And I'm going to take some, and then you just press on the center, and there you go. And I like the way that stripes look on these, because stripes can make pretty patterns, like you see this blue and white and yellow and green one, and the pink and orange too, stripes. And to kind of secure it, I am cutting some double-sided foam, and I am just pressing the center of the flower right on the double-sided foam. If you try to use a liquid glue, you really have to hold it down or put something on top of it to hold it in place until it dries. So something that's already has adhesive on it, I think just makes this so much easier. Maybe a huge glue dot if you have any big glue dot sheets. So I have those two completed. I have another little yellow one I'm going to do here. I wasn't sure how many I was going to do. My initial plan was to do maybe 4 or 5. I think I end up with 7. I can't remember. 6 or 7. Well, the way that piece of paper looks too, the yellow. Yeah, so that's part of the fun, is picking out the patterns that are going to create, the pattern papers that are going to kind of create the neat patterns in the rosettes. These little small ones are kind of tricky. But again, just back and forth, back and forth. So I have my photos here, and it's just a photo strip that I printed with 8 photos on them from 8 of the many I took that day. It was hard to narrow it down because I didn't want to cover it completely with photos. And I realized that this orange and pink one was a little too big, so I am going to trim off a little bit. And this paper gets really thick when you try to cut it, so you really have to. These scissors are so great. I love these scissors. I've had them for years and years and years and years. All right, so let's see if this works. And I was looking, this piece of paper had kind of rays. It wasn't perfectly vertical or horizontal stripes. It was rays, and I was trying to look at the way the ray burst was kind of oriented on these strips to make sure it was bursting out. And I'm going to cut a big piece of foam for this one. And there it is. So I love how that looks. And by the way, the reason I decided to do this was I was thinking of like the tops of circus tents or the tops of tents that kind of checkered, not checkered, but striped pattern with the point. And I just thought, like, if you were looking down from the sky at tents, that you would see all the tops of the fun, colorful tents. Not that there's a lot of tents at the fair, but, you know, it kind of gives it a fair vibe. I backed the photos with a piece of pattern paper just with some words on it, and I did go around the edge with a black pen because I just felt it wasn't standing out enough. But I had played around with a dark black or a black mat and a dark navy mat. You can see at the top right or sorry, top left corner of a piece of navy cardstock up there. But the dark was just I don't know. I didn't like it. Kind of wanted to go for a softer feel. I pulled out some chipboard from not Maggie Holmes, Crepe Paper, the Pier collection, and I have a ton of like fair-like icons and chipboard and die cuts. So it was good to get to use those up a little bit. This is from the Carousel collection again. I definitely wanted to use some of these flags. And I love the patterns and the colors in this collection. So because I had that blue rosette at the top, I thought I needed some blue down the bottom. So these chipboard words are going to fit in there good. And I'm kind of just going to play around with a couple things here. I like this banner, but I don't end up using it. Although now that I look at it in the video, it looks super cute there. But it was, the words were blue too, and I didn't want to put too much blue down there, so I end up taking it off. Little ice cream cone. And checking out a different Ferris wheel. I'm going to stick with this chipboard one. The fair is so much fun. I didn't used to like the fair as an adult, but now that I have kids, and it's huge. It goes on for 2 weeks, and there's just so much to do. As a matter of fact, we've already gone this year. We were there for 13 hours, and we didn't even get to half of the stuff. Animal shows and just barns and barns of animals. I mean, everything. Guinea pigs and chickens and turkeys and pigs and llamas and horse shows, and we just have so much fun. It's definitely, you definitely need to go more than one day just to see everything, but this was last year's. The kids love it, and it's pretty reasonable. $3 to get in, $20 for all day ride wristbands. So we like it. It's fun to do. I added some yellow stars around with the sticker sheet to pick up on some of the yellow. My photos are very busy as well. Of course, I have the kids going on some rides, and they're brightly colored. So I'm not going to do any mixed media or anything in the background. Just a couple gold splatters I end up doing. But I was, you know, I considered doing some watercoloring in the background, but my gosh, this is just so busy already. So the problem with, well, not the problem, but one issue I faced doing this page is that these rosettes had such height to them. They, you know, they're tall for a scrapbook page, and then when I layer them on top of each other, that makes them even taller. So I have to kind of fiddle around here with how I'm going to make sure that this, you know, scrapbook page isn't 4 inches tall. So how am I going to get my photo on top of all the rosettes to make it level with everything else? So I'm going to tackle that here in a minute. So because I put these on double-sided adhesive foam, I just peeled off the backing and stuck them right down, and they stick pretty good. By the way, that foam I'm using is from ThermoWeb. It's just called foam adhesive, and they come in sheets. And you can use it for their foil and stuff too. So I pulled off my little squares, and I don't even know if you're going to be able to see this from a top-down video, but the right side of my photo is much, excuse me, much higher up than the left side of my photo, and yet you can't really tell from this angle, maybe a little bit. So that was bugging me a little bit because I have to bring up that left side. So I'm going to go back in a minute and deal with that. I changed a little piece of flare on the Ferris wheel to a gold star instead. And because I have the some of the centers of the circles covered up. I'm going to go back and cover those up with different things. So I got to pop off this too because this title, because the word fair is kind of stuck up in the air now because it's attached to the top of the photo. So now I've got to pop these up because I wanted them to be on top of the word fair. So I just keep piling things on. It keeps getting higher and higher and higher. And then this piece of chipboard, all the adhesive tape came off the back, so I just had to pull it all off and re-add my stickers. Okay, that's done. I'm going to add a little label up there. There's so many cute things I could have used for this page. You know, little tickets and I don't know, just all kinds of little cotton candy. But okay, so here's where I'm trying to take out some of the bulk and make make it lie a little bit flatter. That it didn't really work. I tried to cut some of that bottom rosette out. I guess it worked a little bit, but it was a little tricky. So I'm just going to keep adding adhesive where I can to kind of keep it all glued together and flat. So I don't really do too much more. I do go back and add a doodly line around the outside border just with a thin black pen. I thought I recorded that, but my battery died on my phone while I was recording, so I didn't get it. But I added a doodly line and a little heart to the bottom center, or the bottom kind of greenish blue rosette, and my labels for the date, and that is about it. So here is the finished fun page, and I think the doodle border really adds to the fun feel of that. And those super fun rosettes. I think this says fair in its design. I love the texture and dimension of those. Those are so fun to make. You gotta make some. So that is the last page for my Summer Scrapping Series. Oops, I forgot to add the date in there. Thank you so much for joining in and participating and watching all my videos for the past 21 days. I really really appreciate all of your comments and support. And please make sure you go check out my guest designers channels as well. I do have some upcoming series. I'm going to be doing a fall scrapping week in October and 12 days of Christmas in December, which will be my 3rd or 4th year doing the Christmas. So I will see you back then. And of course, I will have a lot of videos in between. So thank you so much again for all of your support and comments, and stay scrappy, my friends.